Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service, jbiztechvalley.com, and as you can see here, weekly columnist for the Jewish Press.
I'm having a lot of fun doing all of that, and I write about how government relates to the Jewish community, or doesn't, as the case may be. But today, we don't have anything that goes along with any of that. Jeremy Martelle is our guest, and we're going to talk about all things drone, all drones. That's what we're going to drone on today.
That's right.
About these flying apparatus. And you know, you're president of the New York Aviation Management Association. So welcome to the Jewish View.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
Very good. The aviation is not only drones, though, is it? It's
Everything. Everything that flies.
Yeah.
Buildings, runways, taxiways, aircraft.
But I wanted to talk to him about drones today.
all right.
Because
That's the latest.
that's the latest thing, and
Yes.
it's high profile. But I wanted to have the audience get to know who you are first.
Okay.
You know, where'd you grow up? You know, where'd you go to school? That sort of thing.
Well, it's interesting. I was telling the rabbi that I grew up in Granville, New York, and upstate in Washington County, and went into the military after high school, got a college degree, education, retired from the military, and now I'm in private consulting practice for aviation. I run Clough Harbor, CHA's regional practice for aviation in the Northeast. So the New York Aviation Management Association is an offshoot of the aviation field in New York State. We advocate on behalf of airports across the state of New York. So,
And what did you do in the military?
I was.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I was an F-16 crew chief originally. Served in Desert Storm and Desert Shield, and after that, I got out of active duty service, and I was over at Schenectady at the Air Guard on the LC-130 aircraft, and flying in and out of the South Pole and up into Greenland.
You did go down on one of those missions to the
I've
South
been
Pole,
there.
because there's a very narrow window that you can fly in and fly out. And if you happen to miss it by a day, I mean, you could be stuck there forever.
Well, people like to think that it's not. It is. There are windows of opportunity to get in and out, but it's tricky. The folks at the 109th Airlift Wing are the best pilots as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they fly in some real treacherous weather.
So you were a passenger in the
I was a
C-130?
passenger. I was a passenger in a 130. Best way to travel. You don't have assigned seating. You know, you can get up and walk around, and nobody's yelling at you to sit down. And so it was great. It was a great.
Do you have
opportunity.
facilities on that C-130?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I took a C-130. I went on a relief mission when Hurricane Gilbert hit Jamaica, and we went on a relief mission to the capital. You know, we flew into Manly Airport. And it was a press junket. So we had a wonderful time, you know, delivering packages of food to the people directly, instead of giving it over to the government, which then kept it for the president of the government, and never got to the people. So, you know, but I flew on a C-130, and you really have to be. You know, it's not like seats like in an airplane. They're on the side of the plane, right?
The web seats, yeah.
The web seats.
Web seats. They're really designed for, you know, folks that are packing, have large packs on, and you know, carrying. It's crew transport,
Right.
And carrying
It's
stuff.
not the most comfortable
No,
seat.
it's
no.
not. It's not designed for comfort in the least.
How
Not
long
first
does it
class.
take you to get to the South Pole from Schenectady?
About 30-something hours. We
In and
generally leave Schenectady, then we go to LA, from LA to Auckland, Auckland to Christchurch, New Zealand, and then Christchurch is about 8 hours into the continent of Antarctica.
And that's just amazing in an uncomfortable setting. Do you have to sleep on the floor? I mean,
You can. I mean, people, you find ways to sleep. You're propped up, you know, you got your eyes closed. If you call it sleep, yeah. I wouldn't call it sleep. It's just...
And did you see the Aurora Borealis? Or did
I
you?
did not see that, but I've heard it's pretty interesting. It's pretty neat.
It's pretty neat,
cool
yeah.
stuff.
So what else in your background, in your career, is as exciting as going to the South Pole? Or is that the highlight of your career?
Yeah, I mean, I've done quite a bit. I mean, I've had an opportunity to travel fairly extensively, you know, with the job that I had. You know, I've really enjoyed being able to get out and see the United States and internationally. I lived in Italy for 3 years.
And you're not even 40.
I'm just over 40.
Just over 40. Look at that.
Well, I'm 29.
Yeah, there you
I have a lot to go over. But back to the drones, so that's
Okay.
a big issue now because, you know, again, I would like to hear what you have to say, but you hear that, oh, there's too many drones and they're interfering with the regular aircraft and they're snooping around. You know, so what are the, maybe you can say the pros and the cons, and are you pro-drone?
Well, he is pro-drone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of, like with anything, there's a lot of misinformation out there. And that's one of the things that the New York Aviation Management Association has been trying to clear up, is all the misinformation that's being discussed about drones. We in the aviation community don't generally like to use the term drone. We call unmanned aerial vehicle, which is the actual equipment,
Right, yeah.
and then unmanned aerial system, which is the entire system, radar systems and everything that control the drones. But for this point, I'll use the term drones.
But you know, what's even the history? Because all of a sudden, like maybe a few years ago, they say America has a drone, it's unmanned, and this is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Then almost a year later, everybody's got a drone. You know, it's like it was like the latest thing, and then it's like any person can for what
Yeah,
is
and
it,
they're
a few
not
months,
cheap
you know?
either. They're not
Right.
cheap.
They can run,
Up to
there's
$1 million.
million dollar versions, but if you look at it, we've had drones in the way that they're being used now for years. I mean, RC, you know, radio controlled planes and helicopters, they've been around for years, and I know a lot of people that have done that hobby for a long time. And since the technology's gotten better, and the equipment has become more technologically advanced and being able to have cameras on them now and all sorts of different things, I think they've really gone to that next level, the next step, which is why they gained so much popularity. YouTube and all these different things, being able to publicize and put that out there.
And which is why it's so controversial now.
Exactly.
You know, because
Exactly.
they went that next step. If they didn't go that next step, you know, I remember in my backyard in Brooklyn playing with a little drone, a little airplane that, you know, you put some batteries in and
Yes.
in the control, and you know, hit the button, and all of a sudden it would come up, and then it would fly here and fly there, but it was in my backyard. I mean, it didn't go over anywhere, you know, and we got yelled at if it went into my neighbor's yard. But I'm just saying that,
Throw
you know,
it back.
You were in the Air Force.
it's a lot different.
You know, you hear a lot about how robots are taking over jobs, and even, you know, science fiction, but maybe it's just a few years ahead of time. It's like armies will be robots fighting robots instead of human beings. Well, better the robots kill each other than human beings.
Yes.
But maybe, I mean, do you see, because you were in the Air Force, do you see that there won't be any more pilots and they'll just send drones to...
Well, I think, let's see how they do with the cars that are out there, the self-driving cars.
Right.
I mean, I think that's really going to be one of the first things you'll see. They're going to have to try to perfect that before they really get an automatic, you know, a aircraft flying by itself, completely unmanned. I think it's a while before that would probably occur.
But you would see maybe in the future? I mean, is that...
There's always that
science fiction
possibility.
and-
No, I think there's always that possibility. I mean, who would have thought we could have put 1,000 songs or 1,000,000 songs on a little chip
Right.
this big? You know, you go back to 8 tracks and, you know, the old records and stuff like that. You tell them, oh, you can put 1,000. No, you can't put 1,000 songs
Yeah.
on. It's the same thing.
Well, now they're doing away with radios in some cars because people have all these songs that they could play off their iPods or whatever, and they just
Look
plug
at
it
the
in.
news from Mark Ronich
know?
over here. Though, you need the news.
So what do you see, you know, do you see compromise coming with these drones? And again, talk about how it could be helpful, because I know a lot of in architecture or in real estate and landscaping, I mean, there's so many positive things that drones could be used for.
Well, it's, I'm glad you bring that up, because there really are a lot of positive things, and our organization is trying to put those out there. I work for an engineering and consulting firm, and in our practice, we want to look at possibilities of, say, for example, looking at a building and flying a drone up and going around the building and looking for heat signatures with some sort of thermal imaging camera to see where there's heat loss in the building, or flying over a property and getting the lay of the land, if you will, and seeing for all sorts of different aspects. And that's just in the engineering. But Also from a safety and security aspect, law enforcement using them to go into
Monitor,
areas,
yeah.
monitor and those types of things. So
That's interesting.
there's a lot of good things that can come about it. And people are, I think, concerned about, well, what if somebody's flying a drone and they come into my backyard and they're looking at me and doing those types of things, which,
Depends what the scenery's like.
and that's exactly it. And people, you know what? That's human nature. Humans are but it's no different than doing,
Right.
you know.
No, my back neighbors in here wanted to cut down, asked me if we could cut down the trees that separate the two. And they had a pool in their backyard. And I said, well, it depends what the scenery is going to be like on the other side, you know. And then they didn't want to cut down the trees because they knew.
Yeah.
So I was very diplomatic of telling them no without having to say no. But you know, with these drones, you know, I can understand, like when you say law enforcement, people who are responsible should be flying them, as opposed to, and maybe people need to have some sort of a license, which then gets into maybe a DMV thing, or cha-ching, cha-ching, the government getting some money out of it. But you know, but when you look at these people who fly drones into stadiums, and they fly drones where they shouldn't be flying them, and it gets, you know, into a dicey
are there
area.
laws, Mark? I mean, because like you say, what if someone had a big backyard and a drone is, can you say it's illegal? I don't know what the
you
law
own
is.
the airspace above your property.
But the FAA regulates it, and that's where the FAA is really doing a great job with trying to push this forward and come up with, you know, they've got a site for registering aircraft. They've got they really control all the airspace. So any municipalities that want to get into regulating airspace will be trumped by the no pun intended. I was going to beat you to that. Would the FAA would supersede that regulatory, but certainly.
But how far? I mean, there is a limit. I mean, above a certain number of feet, the FAA regulates.
Generally, it's and I'll stand corrected, but I think it's around 500 feet.
500 feet.
I do know from a flying perspective, and I have
so
to
you
go
could
back.
still fly the drone 500 feet and still be in your own property airspace.
Yeah, and that gets kind of, I'm not the legal expert on it, but I just, from my understanding of it, I mean, you have to visually be in contact with it. You can't go flying it off and without looking at it and what it's doing. But I think a good kind of scenario, or if you go to the store, you buy a hammer. Okay, you can use the hammer to hammer in nails. You can use it to construct stuff, but you can also use that hammer to bash in a window and steal something. You go to the store, you buy a drone, you can use it for what it's for, or you can use it for illegal purposes. I mean, it's just it's those types of things that if you're using it and operating in a manner that's unsafe, you can call the police, or somebody can call the police on you and say, hey, listen, this guy's invading my privacy, and let the courts handle it.
Looking right into somebody's window.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be no different than you looking into somebody's window. It's the same.
What about, you know, the danger, they say something like a drone almost went into a jet plane going, and I don't have the details.
I mean, I just don't believe those stories, because they can't fly 30,000 feet.
Or maybe when it's coming in. You see Kennedy, you go into New York City, the plane is practically right over your head.
Those transition areas where you're taking off and landing are the most critical phases of flight, and that's what they'll tell you. You know, when you get flocks of geese or anything that are, the plane is coming in or taking off, flocks of geese go, they hear the engines and then ingest them. The airports are pretty good about policing themselves, and they do have things that they're doing, and if somebody's flying illegally, law enforcement can go and and take care of that. But you're always going to have
illegal things.
Exactly.
With any product. I like the hammer.
Exactly. It's
analogy.
You're going to have people that are doing it, and it's not the folks that are out there doing it legally. The ones that register, it's the people that mean to cause harm to whomever it is, you know, and those are the people that we want.
And unintentional harm too. I mean, it's not. And you know, we do have some footage of a drone that I just wanted to let the folks see what a drone is, because you know, they're
You know,
not
Mark,
the
I always say
little-
we have to go soon. If we can't go on a drone, or won't be unmanned.
Yes,
They
that's
say.
it. There's
There
a
we
drone,
go.
a very
That's
expensive
beautiful.
drone right there.
Really, how much does something like that go for? You say expensive.
I don't know that one there. I don't know
I
if,
think they said it was about $10,000.
Really, that's a lot. Buy a
And-
car for them.
But, you know, this is something that's very,
Why are
That's
people
really-
buying
they
drones?
have the lights
Why would a
on.
personal person buy a drone for the fun of it?
there's a
I mean,
lot of neat,
$10,000
yeah, there's a
is
lot of neat
lot.
stuff you can do with them. I mean, really, YouTube is full of neat photography and things that you can do with them. I mean, it's pretty interesting.
It's a lot of money for a toy.
It is. I wouldn't spend that much on them, but I've seen them in Best Buy. They're $400 for one that
Really?
has 4K video on it.
oh,
and-
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can get them.
They're kind of fun.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, to play around with them, I guess.
And you could see the they have a camera on that one,
Yep.
on the bottom. And, you know, like I said, the cameras could be, you know, used for very positive
Hmm.
purposes. And, you know, I think the blades, I don't know how dangerous they are, but it doesn't seem, I mean, like they're any more dangerous than if you have a hacksaw or you're trimming bushes or whatever.
Or jarts. You remember the
Yeah.
jarts
Yeah.
they used to throw?
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
outlawed them because people were getting. It's you gotta.
So-
Very good.
So that's
It's yeah, that's a pretty interesting video. I was down at the Legislative Office building, and we were trying to do having an event to educate lawmakers on, you know, what drones are, what they do, and we didn't bring one. This firm brought
Yeah.
one, and it was like $1 million. I mean, this thing was sitting right in front of me. It was
And
$1
it was
million.
pretty cool.
It was really neat. It was
And did they
really-
fly it up in the
No.
well?
No, they
No,
didn't.
they kept it on the ground?
Yeah, it was just.
But what's the objection? I mean, you say there's law, they're trying to regulate it more. I mean, what's the issues today?
Well, I've seen some legislation that's out there where lawmakers want to make it illegal for somebody to operate a drone in other than hobby uses. And one of the reasons why I would like to counter that is, and I have some stats here because we talk about the economic impact of drones to the New York State economy. It's already having an impact on the New York State economy. Out in Rome and the Utica area, there is this firm called New Air Aviation. It's one of 6 test sites for drones in the United States, and we're fortunate enough to have one in central New York. Right now, they're talking about the total impact between 2014 and 2017 being $106 million. That's total economic impact.
How would they make money? I mean, where were they making money? Because the only thing I heard again is that they want delivery service. A drone will come by, you
Amazon.
know, you want something.
Well, it's also, I mean, you can go out there, surveyors want to use them. Like I was talking about before, surveyors, you have delivery firms. What about video or for Hollywood? They want to use drones for all sorts of, you know, taking video, and really it's limitless, and the sky's the limit, if you
That's,
will,
that's
with what
very
drones
good.
with
I
what
like that.
drones can do.
So go ahead, go through your economic
Well,
impact.
right now, the economic impact on unmanned aerial systems in the industry is proposed to create an estimated 70,000 new jobs in the United States by 2017 and reach 100,000 by 2025. And what they're saying is the total impact of the industry will reach 82 billion by 2025. And right now, I do know in central New York, they're feeling the impact of it, and they're seeing an increase. Right now, I believe the number was 10,000 jobs have been created since 2014.
In central New York?
Well,
Or
in the United
country?
States, in the country. So those are some pretty interesting numbers, and I can give these to you just so you can
Sure.
have it. And I would thank my
Is that
friends.
the manufacturing of the drones or just
Everything,
the usage?
start to finish.
Because you need someone in the control tower or whatever.
You
it
need
is.
well, you need the systems themselves. So
Right.
you talk, and then all the ground radar, and then the testing, so all the various aspects that go into the drones, the direct impact of operating drones.
You know, it's interesting because I saw someone skydiving with a GoPro camera, and you know, you get a great visual from that. But I could only imagine that if you had a drone in back of you when you're skydiving, that would sort of bring a different perspective into, that thrill.
There's so many uses that once I think they get it all sorted out, and I say the federal government and, the industry itself, I think it'll be really interesting.
How high can a drone go? I mean, you were saying skydiving, that's like thousands of feet.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a ceiling on it. I don't have that technical data, but I mean, the operating characteristics of just your home-built, I mean, after a certain, I can't imagine.
But the $1 million one.
Oh yeah,
the sky's the limit for the $1 million one.
You've got the aircraft that are flying out of, say, for example, out of Syracuse Airport, Hancock. Yeah, they've got those are flying overseas. So those are guided by satellite and
they have drones that are flying from Hancock overseas?
Well, they fly from there to another location, and then from that location they fly over to Afghanistan, and they're doing tours currently. And there's somebody on the other end flying them, but it's all through GPS and
and the camera. You have a monitor to see what they're seeing.
They've got all of that. So the technology is there.
It's like live streaming.
Yes. Yep.
I always felt that. If they had a drone in that gorilla cage, maybe they wouldn't have had, but they could have seen what the gorilla was actually doing. And
that's another perfect example of how emergency staff could use something like that to get closer and see what it is and see what's happening.
Because that was a tragedy at the Cincinnati Zoo that I really felt, could have found some other way of handling it, instead of even fixed position cameras. But still, I mean, having a drone there would be.
But you're in the Air Force, going back to that, like you said, they go to Afghanistan. First of all, sometimes they do get shot down. I've heard that. Yeah. And number two, are they using as fighter jets? Maybe because they have a few bombs on them. Could go right, almost like a helicopter, go right into a place.
Well, they could go in and do aerial, bombing and that type of stuff. There's a lot to be said for and against it. I don't want to get into a debate on the military aspect of that, but I do know that the government is looking at those types of things, using drones to carry out those types of
I always
missions.
felt that we could have used drones to find bin Laden.
But
I guess because they kind of knew, you kind of saw pictures of him moving through Afghanistan and all that, but you didn't. I mean, it was pictures, I guess, that the Taliban was feeding us or something.
Well, they were using the drones that we had overseas, the military drones. They were actually feeding back because they can stay up for a long time, get refueled, go up. They don't have. You just change out the operator, so the person sitting in the chair gets to.
Your mic is coming off your lapel.
What kind of fuel, like you say, they have to be refueled? How are they working even? What is?
There are a couple of kinds. There's the jet fuel. Generally, is what they use. They have turbofan or turbofan engines, which are jet engines, and then they've got the one that has a prop on it.
But it's not a fuel of any sort. It's you put fuel in.
It's like a regular aircraft, And
what kind of fuel do you use?
It's jet fuel.
Jet fuel in the drone.
Yep.
But
I don't see a gas tank.
It depends on which ones you're talking about. Are you talking military grade, or are you talking
hobby?
Or generally?
So you're saying that the military grade is jet fuel?
The large ones, the big
$1 million ones.
The big, large aircraft are jet fuel. You get down into the smaller ones, they're generally battery operated.
And that jet fuel can last. I mean, a normal plane can last that long.
Well, if you're flying from here to overseas, they're pretty efficient. I mean, there's not a lot.
Because that's what I'm saying. Usually, you say they can stay up a long time.
Yeah, I don't know all the specs on them, but they have to be able to get from here to the forward operating area and then refuel and then fly over their mission.
And what about the battery-operated ones? You just, they're AA batteries, or
no, rechargeable? Rechargeable batteries, and some of them operate from you know, a half hour, 20 minutes, a half hour to 45 minutes. It depends on what you're doing.
But they're lithium batteries? Or?
Yeah, the lithium
Okay.
ion or, you know, the battery packs that you have. And
So
of course,
we're
they
not-
got to be
yeah.
light.
So we're not talking about AA batteries? We're
No,
not, no.
some of them do. Well, if you look at them, they have this small, tiny little,
Yeah.
I mean, there's all sorts of them out there, and they all fit in that classification of being a drone.
So this is an exciting time for you in this industry?
I think so. I
Yeah.
think it's exciting for, especially for New York State, having one of 6
Yeah,
of those
right.
sites, test sites in the country, based in central New York,
Mhm.
contributing to aviation, very important.
Yeah.
Well, especially central New York is so depressed, so
Yes.
it's so nice that they have an up-and-coming industry.
Well, especially Utica is very depressed.
Well, it's good that there's,
Yes.
like I say, a good industry.
And they have a nanotech component in Utica now. I mean, is that something that could be used with the drones that, you know, as we make things smaller
There
and
could be some
smaller, it could be
collaboration.
powerful?
Yes, there could be some collaboration between any technology, nanotech, and those types of industries and the drone industry, because we want them smaller, fly faster, get from point A to point B, and so definitely.
And what other advances are there in the aircraft industry that you could enlighten us about?
Are they're determined from satellites, is that's what, I mean, like I'm thinking like Mark, I guess I'm so old-fashioned, you know, you have a little transmitter of a little thing, but how are they, like, to go all the way overseas to Afghanistan?
That's all, that's the
That's
military,
satellite?
yeah, the military uses satellites to control them, and, or ground, I think it could be even ground-based, ground-based radar and stuff like that. I don't know all the technical aspects of it, but
Listen,
it's,
Mark, we have to go out to Utica, see how,
Well,
what
that's
they're
right.
doing there. We always
Yeah.
have so many field trips that we
Well,
have to.
Yeah.
New Air came to the Desmond, and that's
Yes.
where I
Really?
got
Yeah.
the idea for the
Yeah.
show here. So,
Yeah.
so I already saw New Air. I already saw the drone. I already had my
You
field
didn't
trip.
flow on it,
you know.
you didn't
Yeah.
fly on it, though.
no.
But what other advances in the technology and aviation can we be looking forward to?
From, as far as drones are concerned?
No,
or?
anything that you.
I mean,
see,
aviation and technology is always one of those very dynamic, you know, types of industries, and I think moving larger groups of people from point A to point B is always one of those things. The Airbus, the A380, you know, just trying to get more people on an aircraft and flying them around the world and doing it cheaper
Yeah.
and doing it more efficiently and safely. So.
As an aviation expert, do you have any clue as to why you had at least 2 planes just sort of disappear off radar, and you know, and one couldn't be found? I guess they found parts of the other.
So do we have like another 3 hours on this show?
Yeah,
It's
really.
those are there's so many things that could go wrong. I mean, it's just a whole host of things.
But it's not like the plane disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle where you really don't know.
well, once
where
they get below
are.
once they get below a certain altitude, they
Right.
become essentially invisible by radar. You can't see them. So it's tough to determine whether it was mechanical failure, sabotage, official hijacking.
So when you go, so, you know, and when a plane actually, quote unquote, crashes in, let's say, water, it's not, the parts are not where it crashes. The parts are strewn.
Generally, there's a whole field, debris field that's
There's like
spread
thousands.
out over large areas, and then settles, and then a lot of it will sink. A lot of the cushions and stuff will still be floating, but it all separates, and it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Well, there you go. You
Yeah.
have another use for drones.
There you go. Perfect. That's right. Fly
You
it
can
out there.
Fly the drones all around
It's-
there.
You're
and
absolutely
it's,
correct.
Take something.
You know, you don't have to have all this manpower
Mm-hmm.
to, you know, just send 12, 20 drones out, and because these are large oceans, and
Mhm.
it's like the Indian Ocean, I think one of them crashed in, right?
Yeah,
Um,
it's,
and, you know, you just can send out 20
See, Mark,
drones.
you're
and
already thinking creatively
there you
over
go.
here.
That's what it
I hope
takes.
you'll take my ideas and use them for your, your own.
my own benefit.
That's right. Okay.
All right, I think we're out of time, but listen, we want you to come back because I think you're at the cutting edge of technology. I mean, this is just the beginning. Like I say, drones were new. Who knew what from a drone or was a little toy when we were kids?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's a major economical power. So who knows? Like you say, the sky's the limit, so keep on innovating and progressing, especially for a state of New York that's exceptional, and do it with good success, with good health.
Much success. Yes.
Thank you.